Good morning. Okay, so this is a real quick topic that has been on my mind the last couple of days. Got stuff in my eye. And yeah, I guess it could be a serious topic when you're a mom, a millennial mom, or the generation of millennial parenting. But it's like, what do you do, or like, how do you handle when your parents don't respect your parenting? So I know grandparents want the best for you and the grandkids. And, I find that there's a lot of things that I think about when I was being raised that I do not want to do with my kids. And then there's some things that, I will carry on with my children. But right now, it's kind of 50-50 of what I would teach my children from being raised, and then it's a lot of things that I would not teach them as far as being raised. But it's like, what do you do when you're in that situation where you just, like, your parents don't respect your parenting? So say for instance, like, now that I think about it, sometimes I think in my particular situation, or maybe I'm just assuming or whatever, but I think parents look at your life and how you're living it and how you're handling your life, whether it be financially or whatever. They look at your life and maybe feel like you don't know what you're doing and you can't handle being a parent, but that's definitely not the case. So they still do what they want to do. So for me, my parents they're different from, of course, when I was raised. But there's one particular situation that just happened, and I had to travel to Georgia. I'm still in Georgia right now, actually getting ready to get on the road to go back home. But I had to travel to Georgia, and I left my son home with them. And we live with my parents. So I think that's another thing too. Like, they don't, when you're living with your parents too, I don't know, they probably feel like they don't have to respect your parenting skills because it's their house or whatever. But I understand that. But still, there's a level of respect when it comes to what I want my kids to do, because we're not going to live in there forever. We're preparing to move right now, but we're not going to live there forever. So my thing is, do what I ask you to do when it comes to my children. For instance, and this is not to bash my parents, because I love my parents. I love them. I really do. They have helped me out so much. So I'm not bashing my parents at all. But, I'm grown. I'm 31 years old. And, my husband and I have certain things we do not want our children to do. And so, like, for instance, if my kids go downstairs in their room, it's like they are totally different kids. Their attitudes change. They become totally different kids. They're bad. They don't listen. They become, like, somewhat disrespectful. But when they're with me and their dad, they don't do that. But because it's kind of like they're getting two parenting. What you doing? It's because they're getting, like, two different sets of parenting. Like, my parents will let them do what they want to do and don't discipline them when they do things, and then they come back to us and it's a different story. So imagine how it is when we go to certain places where they're around people they don't know. I noticed this too, like, just lately. Like, we'll go out around certain people and they'll act a certain way, or they'll try to act out. And I know you're thinking, like, because I already have the solution, and the solution is living with my parents is just not going to work when it comes to raising my kids. But that's all about to change. Can you turn that off? But I just want my parents to respect my parenting, even if I'm living in their house. Like, I respect my parents still. I don't disrespect them in any way. But those things like that, like, say for instance, if they go downstairs in my parents' room because they know they're gonna get away with a lot of stuff. So they'll go get on my mom's phone or my mom's computer, and they'll go watch things that they know that I am and their father don't allow them to watch, because their nana is not gonna say anything, and she's not gonna really watch what they're doing. So they could be on YouTube watching, which I've caught them many times. I've actually had to go in the room and check to see what they're watching. And they're watching things with cussing. And you know, on YouTube now, there's a lot of things on YouTube where they make it look kid friendly, but it's really not, because you have to look at what the story is painting, like what the messages in the story or what the characters are doing. And I'm sure I'm not the only one that's dealt with this, but there could be a song playing like The Wheels on a Bus, but there's these characters that are like doing some craziness. They could be killing, they could be showing some adult stuff. And you know, my parents might hear that song and think, oh, they're watching something good, but really they're not. So you have to constantly watch what these kids are looking at, because this is the world we live in today. You know, us growing up, we didn't have all of this stuff. Like, we had no choice but to go outside and play and look for our friends and, you know, stuff like that. But now they have all these devices where they have access to see and be exposed to so many things. So me and their father, we don't want them to do that. So they know now, if they go in their grandparents' room, their grandparents are not going to watch what they're looking at. So that's one thing. And you know, I've asked my parents plenty of times, please pay attention to what they're looking at, because even though it might be kid friendly or seem kid friendly, it's really not. Or they might be watching something where there's cussing and all kind of stuff. It's just, okay, so that's the first thing. The second thing is food and candy and snacks and stuff. So, you know, that's just how grandparents are. But if I ask you to not allow them to drink soda, or don't give them this sweets, or don't give them that, and you still allow them to just chug a whole can of soda in 2 minutes, it's not okay. You know, I can understand. I'm not stopping, you know, my parents from giving them things, but my kids are not going to live off of junk. So that's the, you know, that's the second thing. And then say if they be disrespectful, or if they do something they're not supposed to do, when it comes to respecting their grandparents, or say for instance like not listening or talking back, or something where they deserve to be disciplined, my parents won't do anything, and then they probably won't tell me. So if I ask the kids, they'll end up telling me eventually, but my parents don't come back and let me know what happened. So say for instance, I let my kids go to church with my grandparents. I'll have to ask my kids, like, how did you act in church? So now I find myself having to limit them going to church with my parents, because they'll act out in church and my parents don't say anything. So they discipline them when they want to, but it's not enough, because you got to discipline your child every time that they do something wrong, because it's teaching them obedience. It's teaching them to be respectful. Like, these are things that are going to have to carry into their adult life. And you know, us growing up, I mean, I don't know about you, but I know me and their father, like, growing up, our parents didn't play that. We both were raised in church, so our parents didn't play that. We knew that we had to sit down, be still in church. We knew we had to listen. We knew it wasn't no getting up. We knew it wasn't no playing, or you was gonna get a whooping. And the way my dad was set up back in the day, he'll whoop me in church because he's a pastor. But now if I send my kids to church with them, you know, they act out, they do things, and I don't find out till maybe a couple days later, or I have to ask my kids, or even my little sister, like, what happened, or she'll come tell me. And those are things that I don't like, because I feel like if they act out, tell me so I can say something to them and talk to them, even if they discipline them. But I guess my parents feel like they got it under control, but really, I'm not saying that they don't, but don't allow my kids to act one way with you, and then when they act out, you don't tell me so I can handle it. I don't want surprises, because I'm thinking my kids are being good and doing the right thing and doing what me and their father has taught them, and then they go out with somebody else and just totally embarrass me, you know? And it's not only embarrassment for me as their parents, but it would be embarrassment for my parents, because my kids are their grandkids. So if they act out and then they're like, oh, that's so-and-so, you know, that's my grandchild, blah, blah, blah. So how, like, I have the solution. And you know, it's not, I'm trying to do my best, because I'm not going to keep my kids away from my, you know, my parents, but you have to set boundaries and you have to set limits. So for instance, like I slowed down, you know, with them going to church with them. Now the reason why this is heavy on my heart is because like this just happened. So like I said, I don't went all off topic, but I had to travel to Georgia because my husband and I are still handling things as far as moving here, and I left my son home so he could go to school, because the last time we came he missed a week of school, so it was like he's not gonna miss these last couple days, you know. And you know, he had gotten in trouble 2 days in school and my parents did not tell me. So I'm calling and talking to my son and asking him how was school. He says good, but from a level of respect, you know, from adult to adult, yes, you're my parents, but tell me if he has a problem at school or if he act out at school. So my little sister told me that he got in trouble 2 days in school. I shouldn't have to hear that from my little sister. I should hear that from my parents. You know, it's a level of respect when it comes to my child, because it's like, you know, Major did this in school, I just want you to know, so when you come back, blah blah blah. But I wouldn't have found out if my little sister didn't tell me. And not only that, I'm trying to talk to him on the phone, so once my little sister told me, he would not get on the phone. Do you know how angry that made me? I had to like let it go, because I was like, okay, not only was I calling back to talk to him, they wouldn't answer the phone, and then when I did tell my sister to put him on the phone, he wouldn't come to the phone, and they didn't make him come to the phone so I could talk to him to find out what happened and why he got in trouble. Y'all get what I'm saying? So that's the problem, you know. And I don't know. I know grandparents want to let grandkids live and just live life, but they're not finna be disrespectful. They're not finna get in trouble in school. They're not finna, you know, do things and don't be disciplined for it. So the solution is, of course, to move, but, you know, they're still going to visit their grandparents and still try to do the same things. So what I think I'm going to do is really just sit down, have a heart-to-heart with my parents. I've talked to them plenty of times before, but now it's like, now I got to take it up another notch. Like, okay, this is what I don't want them to do. Can y'all please respect that? Because at the end of the day, these are my kids. Period. So, what do you do? Like, how do you handle that? If you're in a situation where your parents seem like they don't respect your parenting, how do you handle it? Or how have you handled it? Or how will you handle it? Like, I really want to know. This is a good topic because I don't hear a lot of people talk about that, or maybe I just haven't seen this topic anywhere at all, just because it, you know, it's been an issue for me, because we've been living with my parents for pretty much 2 years now, and you know, it's been an issue. But now that this particular situation where they did not tell me that he got in trouble in school bothered me. It bothered me because I felt some type of way about it. You know, like, I want to know, did you handle the situation, and why didn't you make him get on the phone when I was asking to talk to him? And it's just, I don't know, y'all. I don't know, but yeah, the solution is just to have a heart-to-heart, like, for real. Like, you wanna what? Oh, you made a mess. You wanna, like, allow your parents to, you know, be themselves with their grandkids, but when it gets like that, I don't know. I can't. You done made a mess. Okay, I'm gonna get it. It's getting warm in here. So, yes, the solution. But I gotta make sure I pray about this, and it's not to prolong the situation, but it's like to make sure I'm humble when I do go before them and talk, because I want to be respectful. So making sure that I have the right words to say and the wisdom to have this conversation with them, because I mean, in all honesty, me and my parents, we don't have the best relationship. You know, we don't have a relationship where we can have open communication and be transparent. So when it comes to talking to my parents, I have to be humble, and I have to make sure I'm ready. It's like I have to mentally prepare myself, because we've never had an open relationship when it comes to communication. So, you know, with my parents, it was like whatever they say goes, whatever they think goes. They're old school, and I mean, I have to break that barrier, and I have to set boundaries, and I have to do what I got to do, because those are my kids. So talk to me. Let's make this a topic in the millennial community, like as far as moms and stuff like that. Like, I want to know, like, how would you handle this, or what would you do, or if you've been in this situation, like, talk to me for real, because this is a serious topic, you know. And we always have to be careful that we don't do things the way that our parents did it, because the way we grew up is definitely not going to work for our children these days, because we're in a totally different world today. Technology has changed so much, so we're just in a totally different world, and we have to handle it totally different. Plus, we create our own routines and traditions and stuff, like we just do it different. And me and my husband definitely we are striving to do things different as far as our parenting. But there's boundaries and there's limits and stuff like that. So I'm done talking. I've got it off my chest. So just talk to me in the comments, or go follow me on the Mommy Glow Up, and leave me a message or whatever, and just let me know what the deal is. Talk to me. Like, I need some other moms to have this conversation with right now. So I'm out. Remember to glow. Remember to affirm yourself. Remember to do what makes you happy, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. This is definitely not a topic that should be left on the table. Like, for real, this is definitely not a topic that should be left on the table. So I talked to my husband about it. He was like, oh, that'll be a good topic. So, you know, just to talk about it. But I'm out, y'all. I've done enough talking. It's getting hot here. The kids have made a mess, and yeah, so talk to me.